Okay, let's talk Harry Potter Wizards Unite. This is a mobile game coming to iOS and Android sometime this year. Rumours do point to it coming out in July, August time, mainly because those are the summer months for the Northern Hemisphere. That's also when Pokemon GO was released in 2016, and that was a huge hit. So, this is a game developed by Niantic. This is their third game. They've done Ingress, Pokemon GO, and now Harry Potter Wizards Unite, and they're co-developing this alongside WB Games San Francisco. It is a location-based AR game like Pokemon GO, and when it does come out, it will come out to 19 different languages, and that's a huge thing because Pokemon GO's rollout worldwide was fairly slow. Now, a lot of information was released last week in a first look, so we're going to go through all of that, but first let's start off with the story. So the event that is happening is called the Calamity. Now, these are unknown forces that have brought beasts, artifacts, people, and even memories from the wizarding world into the Muggle world, present-day Muggle world where we are. So when you play this game, you are a witch or wizard, and you are enlisted in what's called the Statute of Secrecy Task Force. SOS Task Force. Now, this task force has been put together by the Ministry of Magic and the International Confederation of Wizards to help prevent the calamity, as well as to investigate why this is happening. So how do we do this? How do we take what has been found from the Muggle world and send it back into the wizarding world? So in Pokemon GO, what you have is the map view. Now, the map view is a representation of where you are in the real world on your phone screen. And on the map view spawn Pokemon. So if a Pokemon spawns, you tap on it, you enter that catch screen to catch that Pokemon. In Wizards Unite, it's very similar. You have a map view, but instead of Pokemon spawning, what spawn are traces. Now, these are traces of magic. So the traces, you tap on a trace and you enter an encounter with a Foundable. Foundables is a new word, it's a made-up word that we need to kind of get our head around. So Foundables are what they're calling the artifacts, the beasts, the people, and the memories that have been kind of found in present-day Muggle world. So you tap on a trace, you enter an encounter with a Foundable. So these traces, there's 10 different types of traces, and they're represented by icons. Now, these icons will be differently colored, and they will kind of appear on the map as those icons. Now, do you remember we had three videos that came out either late, I think it was late last year, from Harry Potter Wizards Unite. Now, the first one was a snitch, the second one was the riderless Nimbus 2000, and the third one was the Niffler. If we take a look at the Niffler video and go to close to the end where there's all the information, we can see all 10 symbols. So all this information has been collated from different sources. We have the official Wizards Unite blog post, the first look. We have Pottermore's article, and we have various news outlets such as Eurogamer, IGN, CNET, TechCrunch, and I think there's a couple that I'm missing, but they'll be down in the description. Some of them have listed out the actual names of the types of traces that we can find. So we have magical games and sports, which I'm pretty sure is that the snitch icon. We have care of magical creatures, which seems to be that paw icon. We have dark arts, which is the skull. Hogwarts School, which I'm assuming is the H. I'm very confused about where 9 3/4 fits into all of this. We have Ministry of Magic, which is the M. We have Magizoology, which is kind of that claw print sort of thing. We have mysterious artifacts, which I don't know, wonders of the wizarding world, as well as oddities. So some of them I have matched up, which I'm pretty confident on, and the other ones I'm not so sure on. But those are the 10 different types of traces that we can find. So the Foundables will be sorted into these trace types, and we'll be able to kind of get a general idea when we tap on a trace what we'll find. So for example, we could tap on the dark arts trace and we might come across a Death Eater or something like that. Let's talk about landmarks. So in Pokemon Go, there is a concept called the nest. Now a nest is a space, often an open space or a park, and a single Pokemon will be spawning there more frequently than others. So for example, if you went to your local park in Pokemon Go, you might turn up there and there would be maybe multiple Sandshrews spawning there. You can imply that that is a Sandshrew nest. Nest migrations in Pokemon Go happen every 2 weeks. So after nest migration, you might go to the same park and it could be a Ponyta nest, for example. That idea has been translated over into over into Wizards Unite. In Pokemon Go, those nests, they're not evident. In Wizards Unite, there's a thing called the landmark. It's that post in the ground that you see with the flag on the top, with the symbol, and that's showing that, in this case here, that more Care of Magical Creatures traces will be found here. Now that's pretty cool. That's kind of transparent about it. Other things are less transparent, like weather. So in Pokemon Go, we have the weather system introduced. Weather's also going to be present in Wizards Unite, with different weather conditions affecting which traces appear more often. Time of day is also a thing in Pokemon Go that's also being translated into Wizards Unite. The one thing that I found that isn't in Pokemon Go that will be in Wizards Unite is moon phases, and I think that's because werewolves will probably be more likely than not only going to be spawning on the full moon. Quite cool. Okay, so from the articles that I've read, they talk about a trace pointing towards a pair of items or a pair of things. So it's a little bit confusing, but the pair of things is a Foundable, which we've talked about, and a Confoundable, which is another made up word that we need to put into our vernacular. But the Confoundable is something you have to overcome to get the Foundable, if that makes sense. It makes more sense if you actually look at the video previews that came out with the first look. So if we look at the Harry and the Dementor one. So at the start of the encounter, you can see a little dialogue box show up, the Statue of Secrecy alert dialogue box. And this one here says the Dementor Confoundable is guarding Harry. If we look at the Demiguise one, at the start it says that a Shackle Confoundable has trapped a Demiguise. So that's how it works. You need to overcome the Confoundable to get the Foundable. So Niantic said that at launch there's going to be over 100 Foundables to encounter, and each of those Foundables will have a specific Confoundable that you need to overcome to be able to get that Foundable. The Foundables will be from both Harry Potter, the book and the movie series, as well as the Fantastic Beasts movie series. And so there's a lot going on and a lot to discover, but we already know a number of Foundables. So we've got the Golden Snitch, we have the Riderless Nimbus 2000, we have the Niffler, we now have the Harry and the Dementor, we have Ron and the Boggart, we've got Hagrid's Hut, Buckbeak, Norbert/Norberta, as well as a winged horse of some sort, and then we also have Death Eaters and the werewolf. So those are the ones that I've collated from everything that we've seen that we've got so far. So over 100, which is quite cool, and they're going to be continuously adding more as the game goes on. To dismiss or overcome the confounding magic for each of these encounters, you need to cast a spell. So we've seen a couple of spells so far. We've seen two unnamed ones with the werewolf and the Death Eater. We've seen Ron with the Boggart, and that's the Ridiculous spell. We just see the animation for that one. But what we do see with Harry and the Dementor is the actual action that you take, which is basically tracing a glyph on your screen. Now this has been done in Niantic's game Ingress, where you have to trace glyphs for glyph hacking. So it's similar principle here, but you don't get to pick what spell that you choose to attack or overcome the confounding magic. It's tied into whatever the foundable is. Some encounters will be more difficult than others. We see this at the start of each encounter. We see like a little dial, which is called the magic exposure threat level, and this goes from like low to extreme. We see it at the start of the Demiguise quick look video. We have a look. We see the actual threat levels listed on the traced videos at the end with the Niffler and the Nimbus 2000. I think the Nimbus 2000 is a high and Niffler is medium high threat level. So that kind of gives us an idea of how easy these encounters are to overcome. When you cast a spell to attempt to overcome the confounding magic, for each encounter, it looks like you're judged on two things. You're judged on accuracy and you're judged on speed. Speed, how quickly you can do it; accurate, how closely to the glyph on the screen your trace is. So this is kind of like in Pokemon Go with throw quality. So whenever you throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon in Pokemon Go, you can do certain things to affect the throw quality. A curveball will increase that chance. Also getting it in the nice, great, excellent thresholds will also increase that chance. So it seems like it's the same case in Wizards Unite, and it'll be interesting to see how the more rarer foundables, what their glyphs will be like, because I assume they'll be harder, and I assume that their success kind of rate will be lower. We also see in the Harry and Dementor video that there is a moment where the person playing the game uses a potion, and this potion here increases the chance of success for the next spell. So that's quite interesting. We'll discuss potions in another video altogether, because it's the inns and potions and greenhouses. It's a whole nother thing that we need to talk about. But yeah, that's very cool how that kind of affects these encounters. So what happens when you successfully send a foundable back to the Wizarding World? Well, it seems like you can track it in your registry. Your registry seems to be kind of like a Pokedex in Pokemon Go. So here we've got the registry. We are in the Magical Creatures kind of tab. You can see the icons along the top, and we've got two sections. We've got the Pumpkin Patch and we've got Hagrid's Hut. Now you can see some of these are kind of they're kind of not there yet because we haven't encountered them, but we see the Buckbeak. Actually, we see the Hagrid one, which is 1 out of 1, so you only need to encounter the Hagrid one once to actually complete that. The Buckbeak one, we see that we've done one of them, and we kind of see a really cool like over CYMK printing thing going on here, and this very much reminds me of like sticker books growing up as a child. But it looks like when you have kind of registered multiple of these foundables and you have reached that kind of threshold, so Hagrid is one, the other ones are more, it looks like you can tap on them and it will bring you into like a Go snapshot of you in Pokemon Go. So essentially you get to like set them up and in AR mode set them up and then take photos with them. That seems to kind of be the overarching reward for completing these registry kind of pages, which is quite cool because Hagrid's going to be huge. Hagrid's going to be huge, and so is Buckbeak actually, and also it'll be cool to see that Norberta come to life, so that will be really cool. Also, you seem to get runes according to by category type, which we don't know how that's gonna play into it yet, but apparently you can use those runes in the fortresses, so that's going to be interesting. And what's more interesting is it seems like unlocking more registry entries will also uncover more of the story. So more of the story about the Calamity, why it's happening, what other things are going on. There's a whole narrative arc that they've planned out, a multi-year narrative arc, and they've talked about how they want this to be a forever game. So a game that goes on for decades and decades, and it's going to be so interesting to see how this goes, because I think this is in contrast to what's happened to Pokemon Go, where Pokemon Go, there's not really a story. Every 6 months they bring out a new generation, and they talk about how now you can discover more Pokemon. You can discover Pokemon originally discovered in the Hoenn region or the Sinnoh region, or that sort of stuff. But there's no overarching story. It's kind of like new generations just pop in randomly almost, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. There seems to be quite a story arc that they've developed for this game already. I think a couple of reporters they got some hands-on experience. They talked about how there's a mysterious there's a group of people that disappeared called the London Five, which they mysteriously disappeared. 4 of which are Ministry of Magic staff, and 1 of them is a Daily Prophet staff. So it's going to be so exciting to see where this goes. This has been a lot of information, and we've only just done the traces, the Foundables, the Registry, the Calamity, and we still have yet to talk about the inns, the fortresses, the greenhouses, the potion brewing, all of that stuff, the portals. We haven't talked about portals yet, so we will do that in another video. But hopefully this is a good taste of like how the actual gameplay will be and how it relates to previous games that you've played, like Pokemon GO or Ingress. It's going to be really exciting.